What's going on, guys? Marco here with Dynasty Nerds, and I am bringing you my Week 6 trade targets. All right, so let's jump into it. I've got three asterisk trade targets for you for Week 6. But actually, before we even jump in, don't forget, subscribe to this YouTube channel. We've got tons and tons of content coming out each and every week, in season, off season, preparing you to help you make your roster a true dynasty in your leagues. And if you want access to the GM tool, to the extra podcast episode every week, to tons and tons of extra content, use the link in the description below to get 15% off, or you can use promo code 14, the number 14P at sign out, and you'll get 15% off. All right, so let's jump into my first trade target, and it's a guy I honestly don't think I ever thought I would be recommending, but he's shown that, over his entire career, that he is a solid player, even with a middling quarterback right now. Amari Cooper is a guy, if you are a contender or if you are in a redraft league, I would go see what you can offer for Amari Cooper right now. If you are looking like you have a shot at the title in redraft, and especially in dynasty leagues, that's really where you can capitalize on some value, because here's the reality. Amari Cooper, no matter what you think of this person, no matter what you think of, the off the field situation, the reality is he's coming back week 13, and that's Deshaun Watson. And that means that for the playoffs, for the couple weeks before the playoffs, Amari Cooper is getting an enormous step up at the quarterback position, just talent-wise. So that creates an opportunity for a contender, like I said, especially in dynasty leagues, to go see what they can offer for Amari Cooper. I recently acquired Amari Cooper for 2 2024 seconds. If you can trade draft capital and not first-round draft capital to go get Amari Cooper, I think that you really aren't risking much, because the reality is, sure, he could get an injury and not really pay off in that time, but from weeks 13 to 17, he has an amazing schedule. And of course, he gets the upgrade at quarterback with Deshaun Watson. And so Amari Cooper is a guy I would love to buy right now in dynasty leagues, at the very least as a depth piece to help you get across that finish line. But if you are desperate at wide receiver, I think Amari Cooper is a buy right now that can cost you almost nothing, especially in dynasty leagues, that can help your team late season and especially in the playoffs. All right, now let's jump to another guy on my list here, and it's Marquise Brown. Now, Marquise Brown, I say in my notes here that this is kind of your last week, but realistically, you've probably got a couple weeks here to buy on Marquise Brown in Dynasty and in Redraft. There are plenty of managers out there who think, and I totally understand this, but they are in the mindset that DeAndre Hopkins is going to come back. He's going to dominate the wide receiver one option for this team, and he is going to just take over and become the old DeAndre Hopkins. And while he'll come back, while I think he will be involved a fair amount, it is my belief that Marquise Brown is going to continue to be the wide receiver one for this team. Sure, he might miss out on an extra 2-3 targets from game to game, and that's not insignificant. But if I had to pick one wide receiver on this team for the rest of the season that I want to put all my chips on, it's Hollywood Brown. He's got great chemistry with Kyler Murray. He's got tons of upside, tons of big play threat ability. And not that DeAndre Hopkins wasn't, but we saw at the end of last year that as good as DeAndre Hopkins is, as incredible as his career has been, he is not the same DeAndre Hopkins of old. He's a very good player, but I believe Marquise Brown is the guy you want. Now, I don't want to get too much into and spend too much time on what am I giving up for Marquise Brown, because it's hyper roster dependent. It really depends on if you are a rebuilding team that wants to invest in young talent, or if you're a contender and what your format is, how many people are in your league, PPR, half PPR, all of those things matter. But if you are one of those teams, please drop your questions below. Hit me up on Twitter at Marco_14P. I love answering any and all fantasy, redraft, and dynasty questions to help you guys win your leagues. I'll throw out a couple trades I'm okay with for Marquise Brown right now in dynasty leagues. So if you're a contender in a dynasty league and you want to get Marquise Brown on your team, maybe you have DeAndre Hopkins. I'm okay sending DeAndre Hopkins and a 2023 second-round pick for Marquise Brown. I know it's a lot of risk, assuming that Hop won't be the guy, but I think it's going to pay off for you in the long run. You can capitalize on perceived value and that name premium of DeAndre Hopkins right now. The last trade target is players who are on bye weeks. There are a lot of teams that didn't start how they thought they would, or who are right on the fringe of am I a contender, am I not a contender? They're trying to figure out who their team really is, but they've got a good player who's on bye. Maybe they haven't been an outstanding player. Maybe they are an Amon-Ra St. Brown who's been out and had a down week and now has a bye week, and this team is like, I got to get one win here because if I lose another one, I might not be a contender. Go see what you can offer for players who are on bye in week 6. There's a number of players I'm really interested in. Obviously, DeAndre Swift, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Dameon Pierce, if you are a contender. I know in one of my videos before I said shop Dameon Pierce just to see what you can get. Well, if anyone's listening to that video, there's probably players who are like, Dameon Pierce has been awesome, I don't want to sell. But if I can get someone to be in my roster this week, help me solidify my first or second place spot in standings, or not fall into the bottom 6 of my standings. There are teams that are willing to move on from Dameon Pierce. See what you have to pay to get him onto your team if you're a contender, right? There's plenty of other players on bye that I think I'm interested in right now. So please, if you've got questions, drop them below. Hit me up on Twitter at Marco_14P, and I'll help you kind of navigate all of the trade, dynasty, and redraft that you might have. All right, guys. Well, that is it for our trade targets for week 6. Don't forget to be kind, do good, and I'll see you next time. Peace.